Call to order the Torrington Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, 7:01 p.m. January 19, 2022. Attendance this evening is by Zoom or in person at City Hall Auditorium, 218-140 Main Street, Connecticut. Instructions for Zoom are available online at www.torringtonct.org/Zoom. The meetings, calling 646-558-8656, meeting ID 795-950-7035, passcode 90714D. Agenda item 2, serving on the commission this evening, remote, Diane Carroll, Don Riley, Starley Arias, Tom Tellman, serving as person, also city planner, item number 3, minutes for approval. I just got a quick note from Commissioner Carroll. The reception is very spotty via Zoom. So, this is just my voice.
Yes, it seems to be, Greg.
Is that better without the mask?
No.
It's like it's reverbing or something.
Yeah, it's very garbled, very garbled.
Is that better?
Yes.
There you
Yep,
go.
there you go.
I'll move away a little bit. Okay, thank you for that note.
Yeah.
Moving on to agenda item number 3, minutes for approval for December 8th, 21. Do I have a motion for that, please?
I'll make a motion, Diane Carroll.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Diane. Thank you, Greg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I will abstain. Greg Mealy, chairman. Moving on to agenda item number 4, old business. We have none at this point. Let's get the number here.
Okay.
Yeah. Moving on to agenda item number 5, new business. A site plan 1395, applicant Joseph J. Lucia, location 92 Brightwood Avenue, proposal construct a 30 by 40 foot pole barn and storage. We need to table this application for a future date. Moving on to agenda item number 5B, re-subdivision modification, applicant Charles R. Ebersol Jr., location 31 Pumping Station Road, 3 lots. Proposal modification to approve to remove requirement of open space liens as lots 2 and 3 have been gifted to Heritage Land Trust. Is the applicant in his attendance?
The applicant's attorney is here, and I'll just speak briefly.
Thank you.
Before I get into business, I'd just like
Your
to
name?
let you know, I am Charles Ebersol
Thank you.
for the owners, Mark and Bridget Merriman. I wanted to let you all know that your former planner is happily enjoying retirement. I went skiing with him yesterday in Vermont, and he's in very good spirits.
Very good.
Good to hear.
And midweek skiing.
Yeah.
So just a month ago, at your December 8th meeting, you approved this 3-lot subdivision on Pumping Station Road. One of the conditions of approval was a fee in lieu, which you've done in previous applications. And I'm happy to report that my client is actually now gifted 2 of the 3 lots, lots number 2 and number 3, to the Heritage Land Preservation Trust. So they now own those 2 lots outright. And I think this is much better for everybody. And since the 2 lots are now owned by the Land Trust, I've submitted this request that you amend the previous approval to delete the requirement of the fee in lieu requirement.
Any commissioners have any questions at this point?
So it's 2 for 3, or rather it's 2 for 1. In other words, we're gonna, two lots went to the land trust and 1 lot does what?
That lot has a barn on it, which is directly across the street from my client's residence, and they're going to continue to own that.
Okay. Anyone else? And Jeremy, you have a memo, please?
Yes, I have a memo from a previous city planner, Martin Connor, dated January 5th, 2022. At the December 8th, 2021 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the commission approved the 3-lot re-subdivision application filed by Charles Ebersol Jr. on behalf of Mark and Bridget Merriman at 31 Pumping Station Road, corner of Pumping Station and Deming Roads, with conditions. Condition number 3 stated, per section 5.5.3 of the subdivision regulations, The applicant shall pay a fee in lieu of open space. This fee shall not exceed 10% of the fair market value of the land to be subdivided prior to the approval of the subdivision. The fair market value of the land to be subdivided shall be determined by an appraiser jointly selected by the applicant and the commission. The cost of the appraisal shall be paid by the applicant. The appraisal shall be completed prior to the filing of the re-subdivision plan on the Torrington land records. A fraction of the total fee shall be paid to the city at the time each lot is first sold or transferred. The numerator of this fraction is 1, the denominator is 3, the number of approved building lots in the approved subdivision. Attorney Eversole has requested a modification to this condition of approval as the owners have gifted lots 2 and 3 to the Heritage Land Trust. He, along with his written request to modify the approval, has included copies of the warranty deeds that were recorded in the city land records 12/23/21. I have previously filed a notice of open space lien on the 3 re-subdivision lots. Attorney Eversole requests that the liens be released. I recommend that the commission revise their approval of this re-subdivision to remove condition number 3. With the transfer of lots 2 and 3 to Heritage Land Trust, the open space requirement has been more than met and there is no need for the open space lien. The open space lien should be discharged with the modification approval by the commission.
Very good. Any commissioners have any comments?
No.
Does the applicant have anything to add to that? You're all set, Mr. Eversole? Thank you. Well, we'll make a decision. Right, Donna?
Like to make a motion to approve re-subdivision modification. Applicant Charles R. Eversole Jr., location 31 Pumping Station Road, 3 lots. Proposal modification to approval to remove requirement of open space liens as lots 2 and 3 have been gifted to Heritage Land Trust.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
And
I'll move the motion first.
Okay, yeah, please. I'm sorry.
Second, Tom Toman.
Thank you, Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Good luck. Moving on to agenda item number 5C. Request for presentation to commission from attorney Charles R. Eversole Jr., section 6.7 of zoning regulations, mobile homes and recreational vehicles.
Good evening.
Go ahead, sir.
Charles Eversole. So I am here this evening with Leila Campo and Dan Mayhew, who are clients of mine. They're going to make some brief remarks for you shortly after my introduction. I've submitted to you a letter in which I've spelled out a little bit of background that I'll just repeat now, and that is my clients have signed a contract to purchase 365 acres at Clug Hill Road in Torrington. And it's their plan to build a premier recreational vehicle campground there. And we sat down with Jeremy and Marty a few weeks ago and reviewed what their intentions were. And in looking at section 6.7 of the Torrington zoning regulations, we realized, my clients more particularly than anybody, because they've been in this field for many years, that the regs themselves are quite antiquated, and they feel it would make sense to make some textual amendments to section 6.7. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Leila Campo to come forward, introduce what their plans will be. We'll probably be submitting this application for the textual change in February. And then once those are approved or not approved, we'll be submitting an application for site plan and special exception approval at a subsequent meeting. So Leila, do you want to come forward and give them a little bit of an introduction?
Thank you.
I'm not that tall. Good evening. As Attorney Eversole said, my name is Leila Campo. My husband's here, Dan Mayhew. We just wanted, based on the recommendation of planning and zoning, to just come and introduce ourselves, answer any preliminary questions that we might be able to, and just sort of set the stage to present some proposed textual changes at next month's planning and zoning meeting. So Dan and I have owned a campground in Bantam, Connecticut since 2014. We purchased that from an estate. We've taken a great deal of pride and joy in expanding and improving Cozy Hills, but unlike the 365 beautiful acres in Torrington, we only have 48 acres in Bantam. So we've capped that out. It's beautifully sized for the property. It's functioning very well. And camping is, since we've purchased Cozy, in short supply. It's hard to build a new campground. And camping was already very popular and COVID has only fueled that. And we're already sold out for a number of weekends for 2022. So we're hoping to help with that recreational shortage. I have a feeling that you're at least somewhat familiar with the property. As Attorney Ebersold said, Cozy Hills is already pretty upscale, but we're excited about the idea of building from scratch and creating a destination and something that we can look back with, sort of a legacy piece, I guess you might say. So this would be a very upscale resort level property. We're going to come to you with an application for 100 sites. In the camping industry, that's actually considered a small campground. And basically was when we met with the zoning and planning and zoning officials and the engineers, we were looking at the regulations, the zoning regulations as outlined. Peter referenced them. I don't believe that they have been updated since they were drafted 23, 30 years ago. I've heard different numbers. Specifically, they are extraordinarily oversized, almost, I guess I would use the word grotesquely so. The camper would take such a teeny amount of the space, and that would mean more trees would have to be taken down and it would be more obtrusive to the environment and to the property. It is 3 times the size of a standard campsite. What is called for in the zoning regulations are a 60 by 100 foot minimum. And that's 3 times larger than the national standard. The second thing that we would hope for consideration is that it has become very standard in the resort and campground industry to have a couple of log cabins on the property that people that don't necessarily have a camper can come and stay in. There's some very specific legal definitions for those. They have to be a certain size and they have to have an RVIA sticker on them. They have to qualify as a camper. They have to be under 400 square feet. And in your zoning regulations, there's allowances for certain structures that are inherent to camping. And one of the things that's changed dramatically in the last 30 years is this almost prerequisite to have some of those rental cabins. So we're hoping for your consideration on that piece as well. Right now, the camping period as defined by the zoning standards is a little bit less than the Northeast standards. Typically, a camping season here in Connecticut, Massachusetts, is around 187 days, and it's capped at 179. So the other thing that we might be asking for your, again, proposed consideration is just to give us that 8 more days. There would also be language proposed that would meet the intent, I think, behind that zoning regulation, which is nobody can ever use it as a residence. We're very strict on that. Any campground owner is. We never want residents. This is recreational, short stay, holiday camping, not something that turns into a situation that burdens the school system or causes a resident/tenant landlord situation. So unless you had any other questions for us, that was just what we wanted to come here tonight, just to say hello and set the grounds perhaps for a conversation next month.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any comments at this point?
Sounds pretty reasonable to me.
I just had a quick, I'm sorry, Tom, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. I was just saying it sounds, reasonable and we can certainly talk about it.
365 acres is quite large. So I think, did you couch it as a camping area, or recreational area?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm using exact planning and zoning definitions, but that's how I would, as a lay person, not a zoning official, would describe it.
Greg,
I was wondering if you're looking at it as a destination for others who don't have campers to come and use it for recreational purposes, like for instance, bike trails or whatever else you might put in. 300, like I said, 365 acres is quite big. So
I guess where he's going with it, if I may, I think the 365 acres, how much acreage is dedicated to, say, the campsites? And again, this is very
Yes,
preliminary, just a casual conversation.
yes.
I think where Greg is going is there added activities
Correct. Well,
available.
in your zoning regulations, it says that any activities that you do on the property have to be limited to the people that are camping and staying on the property. We can't just, like, if you give us permission to move forward and we get to fulfill one dream that I've had my whole life, which is being able to provide horseback riding. I grew up with horses. There's already 6 miles of trails on the property. It wouldn't be open to the public. If we were privileged enough to be able to do something like that, it would be limited to the campers that were on the property, not the public filing in to participate.
Okay, so that's not, that wouldn't be your goal then. Okay.
No, nope.
In the context of building this campground, how much land do you think you'd be building it on as opposed to, I mean, I know trails and whatnot, the actual camping part of it?
Well, a
RV
lot of that
parking.
will depend on how the conversation goes in the next couple of months. Right now.
Saying it goes your way, just curious.
So if you adapt the national camping standards, that would mean we could be less intrusive to the property, take down less trees, use less underground wire and conduit, that type of thing, and keep the camping. One of the things that's kind of special about camping is sort of that small town feel. People actually do want to interact with each other and have that community that sort of pops up each weekend. And that would allow us to build it sort of in cul-de-sacs or clusters, if you would. I don't have an exact size for you, but I could try to do math on the fly. If you went with the national standards with sites approximately 2,000 square feet, that would be somewhere between 35 and 37 feet wide and between 50 and 60 feet deep. And you multiply that by 100. I'm guessing that's somewhere about, please don't hold me to this, I think that would be about 7 or 8 sites per acre. So you would be intruding on a lot smaller space. There would be a lot of green space. The property is much larger than needed. It's a beautiful property. It's certainly not every day you have the opportunity to look at 365 acres in Connecticut that's so developed. But the goal would not be to spread out and be obtrusive. Or I think one of the delightful things about having so much space is how much of a buffer we could have between the campground and the community. Our goal would be to try to preserve the farmland and that type of use for the types of uses it's being used for now, hay and corn and that type of thing. So our goal would be to just create an asset to the property, preserve its history. Jerry Zordan was able to spend a number of hours with us and talk to us about the oldest foundations. At least this is what he told me. I can't verify this as fact, but he says the oldest foundations in Torrington were on this property. And I love the fact that, we might be able to showcase that history and showcase Torrington to people that might not necessarily get to see it now and see how it's evolving.
Would you be continuing the farming and haying?
Ideally, while I'm not going to be purchasing a harvester, I would love to continue the relationship that exists, if we at all can preserve that with the local farms that are utilizing the property now. I don't want to promise that, because if we have to put a road in, so I've tried to be very upfront and careful about that, but that would be the goal. And I think that's when we look at building a resort property, you do kind of want to give a nod to the heritage. That should be a big part of the property. And that property's heritage is really in the farming. And we would love to see that with things like horse trails and maybe even active farming continuing.
So you mentioned national standards, and we had these conversations in the office upstairs. Like what you do propose would mostly come out of some sort of a printed standard.
Correct.
The national standards or the campground, some sort of campground standards.
The 3 standards that are really out there published, and they all work together on this. They sit on a council together. They review them continuously. So you have the NFPA, the National Fire Protection. They, of course, issue standards for a lot of building and industry. Yes. You have the National Association for Campground Owners, which is called ARVC, ARVC, and KOA, which is the largest camping franchise in the United States and Canada, also does standards. And so they're all pretty much in agreement, but we can provide those 3 different sources to show that we're not coming in and suggesting something that's subpar, that we are indeed relying on experts that have been doing this for a long time and have very well thought out standards.
Anyone else?
Yes, I have a question. Just curious what your plan is for his actual residence. Is that going to stay on the property or is that being torn down?
Oh, gosh, no. Yeah, no, it's an exceptional house. Obviously, it's been on the market for a long time because I think it's very unique. We see with very little architectural changes to that being the clubhouse, we see that as absolutely the anchor, the cornerstone for the vision for the property. I think when you pull up on that hill and you see that house, it sets a tone. And what we want is everything else we do there to equal that tone. That is the sort of, everybody needs an inspiration point. For us, that house is the inspiration point for the vision that we have for the property.
And is there also a barn on that property?
Yes, there is. There's a 5-stall barn and there are a number of smaller outbuildings like shed run-ins for goats and cows. And then there are 2 shed rows for horses as well. And there is a relatively, although I don't know the square footage off the top of my head, sizable maintenance building on the property.
So your goal is to hopefully preserve those?
For sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Tom Tellman, one more question. What would you proposing for water hookups and sewer hookups and things like that? How would that work?
Well, again, all to national standards. Every site would have a sewer connection that would go to a septic system, a water hookup, and what they call 20, 30, 50 amp electric hookups, because campers come in all different sizes. And we've seen the industry kind of boomerang from the 60s where the campers were really small to the aughts where the campers were enormous. And now our millennials and our Gen Zers are camping in smaller campers again. So you need multiple hookups, and electric cars are a big thing. So my husband's an electrical engineer and an electrician. So we're very particular about our utilities and our hookups. I would say that Cozy Hills has the best electric service of any campground in Connecticut. I'm not sure that's a big selling point on a brochure, but it is a point of pride. So the utilities are very
Talking
important.
to Greg.
Very important. And there's a 4th utility, and that is Wi-Fi. You cannot run a campground these days without streaming level Wi-Fi.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just my comment on this. Appreciate the presentation this evening. And as a commission, we're very proactive in bringing things into the new age, so to speak. So by all means, we'd love to see what you're proposing and proceed, I would say, right?
Yeah, very good vision. So we're ready to talk.
And perhaps this is slightly out of school. I apologize if it is. I just want to say, if there's any neighbors or anybody that is concerned and would like to meet with us, we haven't not met with you deliberately. We just haven't had anything to show you. So the feeling was that was going to cause more angst if we just said we have a concept, but we have nothing to show you. So we weren't aware that we were going to be coming so soon to talk to the commission about a textual change. So in some ways, we're not completely ready yet, but you can find, if anybody's here and is interested, I mean, we're easy to locate. I'm happy to stay for a few minutes. And we want very much to be good neighbors and good citizens in Torrington, not to cause trouble for anybody, just to be something that the whole city can take a lot of pride in.
Very good. Thank you.
One last question. What is the timeline you'd be looking at for construction and finish and completion?
Well, I am the eternal optimist. So that question should really go to my husband because probably 4 months longer than I think it will take. I guess if I understand it correctly, and I would love Jeremy's input on this, I will have to remote with you next month. I'm taking my motor home and it's important to live your customer's experience. So I'm motorhoming so I'll I'll be zooming in with you next month. And then I understand that we will likely have a public hearing in March. A lot of it, we do need to get an A2 survey completed, which on such a large property is a substantial amount of time. So a lot of it will then hinge upon those two pieces, the A2 survey and the design getting done from the campground designers. So hopefully we can run some of that simultaneously. I understand that in June you meet, May and June you meet twice a month.
Twice, yep.
So my hope is perhaps that we'll have some drawings before you in June, and then it'll take, my understanding is several meetings to have this conversation. It would be ideal to construct, everything we do at Cozy Hills has to be done in the off season. So I have this dream of being able to construct something when it's not snowing and fighting 2 feet of frost. But every time I do the timeline, it kind of points to a fall or winter best case scenario.
And
Construction.
don't forget in your timeline too, if you're within any inland
Wetlands.
wetlands, you'll have to start
Yes.
there.
Wetlands and whether or not we have to go before architectural
Yes.
review. Yes, I'm
Yep.
sorry, I forgot this. Yes, they are in my head.
Okay.
But you're for zone change, zone change, for
Textural.
regulation amendments, we'll be looking at February and March.
Yes.
Okay.
One quick question for anyone who would like to familiarize themselves generally with the national camping standards. If I search on the web NFPA, ARBC, and KOA, I should be able to find what I'm looking for.
Probably not. I did provide a copy to Jeremy.
Oh, okay. Oh, we've got one. Good. Okay.
Yes.
I
Thanks.
have one to pass around to whoever wants to study.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeremy.
It's not a cheap booklet. It's about $90, but
I do have to return it eventually.
we
Good.
could get more copies if needed, or we could probably copy a few sheets without getting into much trouble.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have any comments at this point?
No.
I guess overall then proceed with
Yeah.
your proposed amendments and we'll take a peek at them.
Very good.
Thank-
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 5D, site plan 1397, applicant Matthew Flansburgh. Target location 1922 East Main Street. Proposal is for Target drive-up expansion. Is the applicant in attendance?
Hi, my name is William Slater. I'm here representing Matthew and the Target at 1922 East Main Street. I let Jeremy know of this before the meeting had begun.
Yes, yes.
So our project that I work for Kimley Horn, which is a civil engineering consultant firm. We work alongside Target as part of their expansion program for their drive up, which is a service that you can order things on your phone, park in a certain spot on the lot, and Target team members will deliver it to your vehicle. So the expansion program is to restripe 24 parking spaces in the parking lot to become drive up spaces with 6-foot tall signs at the head of each stall. I can actually share my screen to show the plans. I don't know if people have them handy.
Great.
Are you guys able to see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
That's fine.
Okay.
Continue.
So this is the plan. It is to restripe. There's currently on site some drive up stalls, but we are to restripe those and follow this new pattern, which is a stall and then a loading dock, 2 stalls, loading dock. And this is for safety purposes for the Target team members. That's also why we're proposing to install new drive up stop signs and stop striping. And then one other feature other than just the striping is there's these 2 beacons inside the drive aisles. I can show you what they look like. They are 12 feet tall. They are internally illuminated and they are solar powered. And this is just for wayfinding purposes for the cars driving into the site. And this is what these signs look like that are at the head of each stall. You type in the space number that you're at, and then the Target team member knows where to deliver the item.
So with this configuration, you're actually eliminating some of the existing parking spaces, correct?
Yes, eliminating 4 total parking spaces.
Just 4?
Just 4, yes.
Okay. And obviously-
William, can you just put your cursor on the diagram here and show us how many, like what it looks like now? How many spots now are for the drive up?
Yes. So currently all the spaces are on this left side. You can sort of see through
Okay,
the shading of what they currently look like. The new plan is to narrow the drive aisles, the walkway aisles. So that's why these spaces are kind of being restriped, the existing ones.
okay,
So yeah, they're currently only on the left, but those are being restriped as well as I believe it is 16 spaces on the right side that are being turned into 12.
okay.
How do the new signs compare in size to the existing signs?
I'm
I have used the drive up at Target fairly frequently, and there are signs there now.
Mhm.
It looks like they get blown over in the wind, actually.
I have not heard of that, but I believe these are welded into the ground. So I imagine that will not be occurring anymore.
Okay, yeah.
The drive up program was initially launched kind of due to COVID restraints, and Target has realized how popular it has become and
Right.
sees no reason not to continue doing it and actually wants to expand it at many of their stores.
So in your opinion, do you think that this is going to keep expanding every year?
I would have to ask them about that, about Target, our client, if they have any plans. Currently 24 is a standard that we're doing at most Targets in the country.
Okay,
So I haven't heard of any more than 24, which is what's currently being proposed here.
it just seems like that would make sense that that's going to happen, so.
Yeah, like I said, I would have to see what they were thinking. Maybe this is the first
Right.
step or if it's the final.
I did not realize how many people use that service when I mean, I'm very old school when it comes to those things, and I was just amazed at how many people were in line for those pickup
Mhm.
spots.
So I had a question, Greg Parasino. So it looks to me like the way it's laid out is the people from the store, the Target employees would come out through the crosswalk and go down the center aisle?
Yes.
Okay. Has
And
anyone, just out of curiosity, has anyone ever thought of potentially, not now, but maybe possibly in the future, covering that whole section?
like with a canopy or some sort
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
that has been mentioned, or I have seen that in other designs for other stores. I haven't heard of that at this
Okay.
specific store.
Okay.
Any other commissioners have any questions at this point?
I'm good.
No.
Jeremy, you have a memo. If you can read it, please.
It's a memo from Jeremy Lightford, AICP City Planner, dated January 19th, 2022. This wasn't completed in time to get out with your packets, but I'll get a copy to anybody that wants to see them later on that's on Zoom. William Slater, EIT of Kimley Horn and Associates, Inc. has filed a site plan application on behalf of Target Corporation to modify existing parking on the property to implement Target's drive-up expansion program. The property is owned by Target Corporation, is 18.5 acres in size, and is located in the LB local business zone. The existing retail use is a permitted use in the LB zone per sections 3.1, subsection 3.10 of the zoning regulations. Plans submitted are titled Target Drive-Up Expansion T2305, Torrington, 1922 East Main Street, Torrington, Connecticut, 06790 by Kimley Horn and Associates, Inc., San Diego, California, dated January 5th, 2022, 5 sheets. Also submitted is correspondence from the City Building Department, Traffic Division, and WPCA. The commission approved the original site plan for this property under site plan number 771 in November 2006. In reviewing the application and plans and documents submitted, I have the following comments. This site plan application proposes to modify and remark existing parking spaces with directional wayfinding and parking signage, asphalt marking, and drive-up beacons. 2, the reorientation of parking spaces appears to eliminate 6 to 8, which we now know is 4, parking spaces from the overall number of spaces on the site. The current uses on site require approximately 400 parking spaces to comply with the regulations. There are currently 600 parking spaces on the site. The proposed parking changes comply with the parking regulations in section 5.13.4 of the zoning regulation. 3, there will be no proposed changes in impervious surface or parking lot paving. Other staff comments, Architectural Review Committee, due to the nature of the project, it wasn't referred to ARC. Inland wetlands, landscaping, lighting, and signage. Jeremy Lyford city planner has reviewed the proposal and indicated the following. Wetlands, there are no water courses in the vicinity of this project, nor activities that would trigger the need for wetlands permitting. Therefore, no inland wetlands permits are required. This constitutes a favorable wetlands report for this application. Landscaping, no new landscaping appears to be proposed or is recommended as part of this application. Lighting, no additional outdoor lighting appears to be proposed as part of this plan, except for low lighted beacons for the parking spaces. This lighting is acceptable and in compliance with the regulations. If any other new lighting is proposed, it should be added to the plans, and a photometric plan should be included to show compliance with lighting regulations. All exterior lighting proposals shall be in accordance with the requirements of section 5.17 of the zoning regulations. Signage. Directional parking signage is to be added to the site to indicate the location of proposed drive-up stalls. This signage as proposed does not require signage permits. All other new signage shall be permitted in conformance with section 5.15 of the zoning regulations. Any new proposed signs of over 32 square feet will require site plan approval. Engineering, no comments were received from the engineering department. WPCA, Mary Parati, WPCA Administrative Assistant, in an email dated January 13th, 2022, indicated we have no comments regarding this project. Police Traffic, Sergeant Dustin Baldus, in an email dated January 14, 2022, indicated I have reviewed this plan and have no comments as it does not appear to me much modification to current parking lot besides some beacons and lane striping. Fire, no comments were received from the fire marshal's office. Building official Kevin Gillette, in a memo dated to me on January 14, 2022, indicated that building permits and complete IBC section 107 construction documents will be required. In conclusion, I recommend approval of the site plan application to modify parking at the Target store from implementation of the Target drive-up expansion program as indicated on the filed site drawings with no special conditions or recommendations.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do any commissioners have any comments?
No.
No. Does the applicant have anything else to add?
Nothing else to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Donna?
I'd like to make a motion to approve site plan 1397, applicant Matthew Flansburgh, target location 1922 East Main Street, proposal Target drive-up expansion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
And seconds.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Good luck, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 5E, special exception 22-01 and site plan 1399. Applicant is Samuel Lee on behalf of Volta Charging LLC, location 931 Torrington Street. Proposal: install 2 EV charging / display kiosks in the parking lot of Stop and Shop. We need to set a public hearing date. The suggested date is February 16, 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a
Second.
second?
Diane.
Thank you, Diane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Moving on to agenda item number 5F, zoning and blight violation update. We have none at this point. Agenda item number 5G, watershed protection, zoning map revision, December 2021. Jeremy, we have any comments on that at this point?
Yeah, I didn't do an official memo for this, but this actually came up as part of our preliminary meetings with the potential campground property. There was, we have our watershed protection zones, and previously the watershed protection zone line almost went right through the house that's on that property. We went back and reviewed with the Torrington Water Company, and everybody should have the letter from the water company in their packet. There was a revision to their map because there's a part of the watershed that's not actually connected to the public water supply at this point. So they gave us a revised map, which we've updated on our zoning map, because our watershed protection zones, they're whatever the protection area is that's set by the water company. So we've updated that, and it's actually taken a pretty large piece of that property and property, I think, on the other side of Weed Road and the other side of Route 4 out of the watershed protection zone. So that area will revert to what the underlying zone was, which was R60.
Any commissioners have any comments?
No.
Okay. We need to do any act on that?
No,
Just
there's,
informational
yeah, it's because
at this point.
it's
Yep.
set by whatever the watershed is.
Right, okay, sounds good. Moving on to agenda item number 6, correspondence. A, discussion about new cannabis establishments regulations.
Okay, so we haven't actually began to craft these regulations yet based on the changes to state statute. In discussions with the mayor in the last couple of weeks, I think the best course of action for us is to do a joint meeting with city council to kind of kick off this process for us, because their feedback is obviously going to be, pretty important to what we move forward with on crafting of the regulations. So, I mean, I think my suggestion in these discussions with the mayor is we decide sometime in February whether this joint meeting will be as part of one of their city council meetings or our February planning and zoning meeting. I don't know if the commissioners have a feeling either way. The mayor did tell me that they have 2 meetings on the 7th and 9th of February, which I think are a Monday and a Wednesday. So we can attend either one of those or actually invite them into our meeting on the 16th.
Thoughts from the commissioners? Any preference?
No, I don't see it as a.
Yeah, I don't either.
No, I mean, there's gonna be an agenda, a normal agenda that we have to deal with and that they have to deal with. So it's just adding it to the agenda and then having a discussion. I'm concerned that it might take some time to get through it, though.
I don't think, at least prior to that meeting, I don't think it would be a good idea to try to craft a regulation, but I think I should put together some talking points, some major items that we can just discuss and flesh out for when we do.
I like that idea, Jeremy, because it'll keep us on task rather than floating around.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. And there's specific points made in statute that I can pull out a statute that we can discuss.
Yep.
So again, the question is, do we piggyback one of their meetings or have them basically piggyback our meeting?
I think whatever works is fine with me.
I mean, I guess off the top of my head, if council has 2 meetings that week, maybe one or the other would be lighter for them.
Do they do Zoom? The way we do?
I do believe they run hybrid meetings for theirs too, but I'll verify that with the mayor.
Well, if they piggyback ours, our meeting is probably shorter than theirs.
Good point.
We don't want to get tied up to, 22 items before they get to us.
Good point, Tom.
So as of right now, it looks like we have a potential zoning, we'd be setting a public hearing for the zone, possibly for that zoning regulation amendment.
Right.
And then we've got a public hearing for the charging station.
Right.
Charging station thing shouldn't be very much of a big deal.
I don't even think the campground will either.
We're just, we just be accepting and setting.
That would
a
set a
date.
public hearing date. That's
That's what
all.
I'm saying. So I don't, that's not going to be long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Tom. I think that maybe we should
They,
ask them to attend our meeting, because I think it would be a much more efficient meeting regarding
Yes.
the topic, regarding the.
can be
topic.
quicker on both sides.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, I'll speak with the mayor on that tomorrow.
Sounds good. All right, anything else on that? We're good, right?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 7, adjournment. The time is 7:46. Do I have a motion?
I move to
Move.
adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second motion.
All those in favor?
Everybody jumps in.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Have a good evening, everyone. Thanks for your.
Okay.
Thanks,
Good night.
guys.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
Jeremy.
everyone. Bye, everyone.